Hello and welcome, Inspired Podcast community. This is your new episode. My name is Caroline, and my today's guest is Susan Goodrich. Hello, how are you doing?
I'm doing really well, Carolyn. I really appreciate you having me back. And how are you today?
I'm fine too. Thank you for asking. And I like to present you to the audience because you are called the Good Witch and you help entrepreneurs create their dream life by going from feeling stuck and confused to feeling fulfilled and motivated about life so that they can experience more love, abundance, and happiness. And isn't this what we all like to have or increase?
Hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit more about your work?
So I studied as a transformational life coach, and now I'm kind of shifting more to the business, really women's empowerment coaching, because I can see that the skill sets that I've learned through the transformational life coaching can really be applied to helping women up level their businesses, right? Really, like, especially entrepreneurs who are single, solo, maybe they're like myself, also a solo mother, like a single mother. Hmm.
Yes. Oh, this is very interesting that you are sharing this about your work. And of course, the podcast is called Inspired, and I like to know what inspires you.
What inspired me? Well, I've been an entrepreneur for close to 3 decades. That's three.
Wow.
And at one point, I was really very successful. And then I had children. And that took me to on a little bit different journey. I had always been a do it yourselfer. I had been really good at doing it myself and was really quite successful. And so after I had my children, one of the things I realized is that I wasn't taking risks. I also didn't know how to manage the stress level that I had with having children and all the other responsibilities, even though I had a lot of help in the beginning. But I started this coaching work because I had hired a coach myself, and I could see that he could get me back on track, which I thought was fabulous. But there were some things that he couldn't do for me. There were things he couldn't coach me on. And so and I knew that, women, we process information differently. Like, I had a male coach, and we process information differently. And so I realized that this work that I do really helps us to really work from what I call the inside out. So, work from our feminine power and learning how to embrace and, acknowledge and tap in and strengthen those feminine superpowers so that we can, right, marry it with the masculine structures, because we need those strategies as well. But we need to come it from the inside. And one of the things that I saw when I was after doing my coaching experience, is what I jumped into these other big programs, teaching marketing, helping us get clear on our messaging, because the business I was doing now was very different than what I was doing before. And so I had to come at it in a different way. And what I found is that there were a lot of people who were jumping in these big programs when they really weren't ready. And it
Mm.
was triggering a lot of old stories. There was a lot of confusion, and it took them out of their power instead of bringing them into their power. It fed them all these masculine structures without tapping into our inner wisdom. And so what I did was I developed this business framework, and I developed it for myself initially, but I also, because I became really overwhelmed as well. And so at one point I sat back and I was like, I need to watch what's going on here. And then I could hear these other women in the same boat, because we would have breakout rooms, and I could hear it, I could see it, and I'd seen it in other marketing programs where they were not being coached or honored from the inside out. So these were some of the reasons that I wanted to be able to bring the coaching work into the into the business strategy so that we can, you know, really work from the inside out.
Yeah, I understand. I understand what inspired you to do this kind of work. Totally. Thank you so much for sharing. And yeah, and who inspired you?
Who inspired me? Well, I believe that it was I've had a lot of inspiration along the way. I think that working with a Jungian analyst in my starting in my late 30s, all through my 40 or through much of my 40s, some of these other experiential work to be able to tap into the feminine power, and then the coach that I worked with, like uh, the male coach that I worked with, he had some really great strategies, but like I said, there were missing pieces. And so when I um, met up with my coaching trainer, Claire Zamet, who at that time had a program called the Feminine Power Transformational Life Coaching. And that's where I got my foundational work. And she was actually promoted and supported by Jean Houston. And Jean is someone that many of the women that I had done experiential work with in my 40s, they had done her work. And I knew that when she was standing behind Claire, I was like, definitely, I'm in there. This is definitely the work that I want to be able to do. It was, yeah, that totally inspired me.
Wow, this is amazing. Thank you for sharing. And how do you inspire other people?
I inspire other people. I think by sharing my stories of success. I think those are some of the big ones. I inspire them by listening to them and helping them create their new stories, right? Taking those old stories and finding relief so that we can get the new stories and step into that new piece. I think one of my stories that I use to inspire people is the one about having my children. And I felt very called and well, I know a lot of people have kids, right? It's
Mhm.
normal. But I had mine on my own at the age of 53. And having not followed my dreams all those years, there were suddenly the possibilities and the windows that began to open for me. I think show people that it is possible. And I've noticed that the women that are often that really drawn to the story are women who have a dream that they haven't yet fulfilled, and they're like in their 40s, or actually many of them in their 50s, some of them even in their 70s, where they're like they know they have this dream of something that they are meant to create while they were here on this planet, and they have something has been holding them back. There's some old story that says, oh, you can't be successful doing that, you can't make a living doing that. So we can actually start to create possibilities, and so that's how I help inspire others.
Yes, absolutely. I am inspired now. Thank you so much. And what are your gifts and talents?
Well, my gifts and my talents, I am a teacher by core. I've known that since I was 16. So, and that's when I did my work in when I was really successful in my entrepreneurial business. I was teaching engineers and architects a piece of software. So I come from a very logical space. However, what my other superpower is my deep intuitive knowing. And so that allows me to marry the feminine with the masculine, right? So I think that those are really, my greatest strengths.
Oh, I love that. It's impressive. Yes, to put the two parts together,
Mm.
feminine and the masculine energy. And what are your goals for 2024?
Well, my goals are for 2024 are launching this business framework that I created for myself and bringing it to the women entrepreneurs who are ready to do this kind of work. Because one of the things that I've seen is that we often jump in and we're always being asked uh, to go into what is our story about what makes us successful, right? And
Yeah.
we always go into this really dark space to find that, right? Because that's like there is a place where we failed and then we were able to climb out, right? That's the story. But what I'm finding is that every one of the programs that I step into is always asking me to go into that space. What that space does is it triggers the old stories if they haven't properly been healed and don't allow us to actually be in that space of possibility. We forget what our genius is. We are locked in, often get locked in that old story. Because I saw the pattern the other day. I was like, oh, I really want to coach on this because that's something that I can see that, and I've seen it. I've seen it with other women that I've coached, right? They're being asked to get their message clear again, and they have to go back into that old story. And until we actually take that old story and shift it, do we really start to claim the who we are? Because we can
Mhm.
easily, if we spend too much time in the old story, get stuck
Yes.
there. And so I want to help people get unstuck.
Oh, that's so beautiful as the
Thank you.
goal and as the mission as well for
Hmm.
this year and far beyond, I think. And yeah, and my next question is, when people reach out to you after listening to this podcast episode, do you have a special offer for the inspired podcast community?
The inspired. So at the moment, I have this thing called the emotional alchemy. It's a piece that they can reach out to me, and it's a freebie. It's a kind of a it is a PDF download. I am actually working on building something called a niche cast so that you can consume me verbally. I am actually building out my program. So please jump on and download the emotional alchemy, and I'll make sure that once my niche cast is built, that you'll be able to listen to the audibles and the instruction on how to step through that whole space, because I'm actually building an academy of transformation as well at this moment. So I want you to have access to some of the programs that are in there as well.
Wow, thank you so much. This is so generous. I love this. You give a freebie, and please reach out to Susan. She's amazing. And now I think you have a last message to our audience.
All right, the a quote, a last message. Well, remember, it's never too late to make your dreams come true.
Mm,
Never.
so beautiful. Thank you so much. This was our episode. Yeah, thank you for saying yes again. See you soon.
Thank you.